Hey guys, Sato here. It is 2024 and there are tons of games you can play to waste your limited time in this universe. Some games are simple, some games are fun with friends, for some games it's a challenge to find fun. And for the others, you spend enormous amounts of time grinding just to get those virtual pixels in your inventory instead of spending the time on your career education or your life goals. Wow, almost lost all my breath on that sentence, I'm not gonna lie. But does it really matter if you can blow things up, set things on fire, or being set on fire? Or being brutally murdered or taken hostage by your enemy and publicly executed? As you have probably guessed, today I'm gonna talk about my experience in Foxhole as a beginner. What is this hellhole? Should you try it? Spoiler, yes. Unfortunately, I'm a normal human being, and the only thing I knew about Foxhole before I started to record is it's a war. So, the game came out somewhere in 2017, and in 7 years, the game has a good amount of things to offer. Basically, there are two sides, Colonialists and Wardens. Each has its own equipment that they can research, and that is all I really know about, to be honest. I even heard the planes are going to be added to the game, but a lot of people think it's controversial. So finally, I downloaded the game, chose a side, I appeared on some island. The game, as any other, offered me to go to the training ground, but as a great soldier as I am, I quickly opted out. After a while of trying to find out how to deploy, I chose the most probable location of battle and spawned. The war looked like it has already started since there was a lot of different equipment and vehicles. And after a few unsuccessful tries and me dying, I started getting the ropes. To be honest, it takes a little time to get used to the game, but anyways. Successfully, we pushed Wardens out of the zone. Tens of trenches were empty. However, our entire battalion was stopped by a single pillbox that wasn't even looking our way. It managed to kill a lot of clueless soldiers. I threw a grenade on it. Someone tried to gas it and missed. Tried to gas it again, and we quickly realized that it didn't have anyone in it. It was shooting by itself. Next, I somehow joined a small group and we decided to cross the border. And as someone said, we'd die as soon as we spawn on the other side. However, there was no resistance. So, we just destroyed their tower. Then, we tried to go around on the shore and managed to infiltrate the enemy base. We even got into their bunker. But after fierce resistance, we were quickly put down. So after the battle was over, I saw that the infantry was needed for a push on the other side. Perhaps at the time it was the biggest battle I've ever had. Tanks, trench warfare. Simply fighting for one trench because it had a great importance and the only thing that was holding us back. I also cannot not mention the nighttime. The vision reduces greatly and you just can't see nothing. And imagine the feeling for tanks and other vehicles. At times, the only thing I was shooting at were the flashes of the enemy gunfire and silhouettes that showed up for like a millisecond. Surprisingly, it's also the time when you start to appreciate the seemingly boring classes like medics or logistics drivers. A lot of times, our bunkers were out of grenades or even bandages, and if you played in any war simulator, you would know that throwing a grenade in a trench or a building causes chaos among enemy. Nobody would want to be on the receiving end of the stick. Perhaps as a new player, sometimes I would just get scared to get into trenches near the enemy, since a lot of times you would just see a rain of grenades flying at you as soon as you jump in. Although another cool thing that I noticed was the transportation to the front line. Personally, I haven't used it because I was just a few seconds away from the bunker, but it's a nice thing to see. It's just great, adds that immersion. You drive into the front line to your end. So somehow I ended up fighting on the rocks with water at my side. And let me tell you, that experience was brutal. If during my first fight, there weren't that many people shooting at you, it turned out to be the opposite for me on the rocks. Every time I poked my head out, a storm of bullets flying at me. Almost every time I had to go get healed if I got lucky enough to just not get killed straight away. And if someone was annoyed enough, they would bring grenades and throw it right into the small space we have. And sometimes they would bring machine guns to just pin everyone who dared to shoot back. So after like 30 different tries and me dying, somehow we started pushing the enemy. And let me tell you, you should experience that rush. After grinding through each trench, you finally gain ground when your enemy collapses. Also, be careful when you throw your grenades. You might regret it later. Killed my own teammate. So, on the next day, I logged on and managed to get into some rural fighting. I take my gun, grenades, and without looking back get into action. It kind of felt like Stalingrad, where you fight for every house and the enemy is on every corner. At one point, you could stand in a semi-destroyed house and there's a Christmas present flying at you. Unlike open fighting, you can feel the pressure when the enemy is literally on the other side of the wall. But also be careful, you might get snatched by your enemy and mercilessly executed. That time I experienced snipers, oof. Getting one shot from someone you can't even see is brutal. Yeah, just fuck you guys. At one point, I was standing behind a rock and I saw the game tell me I'm getting too hot. I didn't even know how. But maybe the reason why I was so hot is because a few seconds later I got caught on fire, and after sprinting and shouting, trying to do anything to extinguish the fire on me, I died. Although I'm happy I wasn't the only one. And perhaps we need to talk about the artillery. Even though I didn't experience a huge artillery barrage aimed at my face, there was still a moment where me and a few people were getting healed and taking a break from the war when suddenly, boom, we're dead. And let me tell you, being under artillery fire, fighting enemies is a cool experience that you definitely will have to get from the game. Anyways, the enemy did start using artillery and tanks against us. And started pushing back, by the way. The lack of anti-tank equipment was taking tolls. With a newbie that I am, the only thing I tried against tanks is a single-shot anti-tank, like a Panzerfaust that Germans used during World War II. It has a really short range and essentially forces you to kamikaze into a tank. Anyways, the first time I missed. That really tells you how good I am at the game, missing point blank. Next time though, I managed to land a hit, but it sounded like it was a bounce even though I shot it in the side armor. I'm not really sure, but think about it. If you had a sawed-off shotgun and shot it point blank, you would deal a great damage. So when you have a short distance anti-tank, I don't expect it to hit like that one annoying bee that just keeps trying to land on your face for no apparent reason. One thing that I started hating are rifles. The huge wait time to get a better shot is what killed me a lot of times. Like, what do you mean there's a warden right in front of me and I miss point blank because my crosshair is the size of a freaking universe? And maybe I don't understand the mechanics that well, but my opponents feel like they're more accurate than me. In fact, I found that the burst firing thingy gun is more accurate than rifles and able to send more shots more accurately on longer ranges. Like, at this point, rifles seem so bad. I also got a small chance at shooting a light machine gun and it was pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. Surprisingly though, a lot of people used local chat when I was playing, and you get a great immersion from players RPing, calling for medics, calling out grenades, screaming in fear sometimes. For that reason, it's not as boring to play alone as the other games. If you ever played like Hell Let Loose or Battlefield, you would know the feeling of just pure silence. I rarely meet people who use local chat in those games. Battle lasts for hours, maybe even days. Just imagine my surprise when I logged off the one day and joined the game on the next day and saw that the battle was still going and it was basically back and forth. We're being pushed back, then the enemies were being pushed back until a certain point. So, when we were being pushed back, I decided to take an opportunity and grab a light machine gun and shoot down everything that moves.
Thanks.
Just got fucking demolished.
Thank you, thank you.
Here you go, medics!
Where's the medic? Where's the doctor? Where's the doctor?
Well, that's it. I didn't quite try everything, but maybe I will in the future. But I can definitely say, Foxhole is fun, in its own way. For a lot of other things, you need to join a clan. But honestly, I don't really feel like it. So if you like the video, like and subscribe, that would really help. Alright, get out of here.